You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And here we are, back again for another week of Earnestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. All right, you all, this has been quite the week. I mean, March came in swinging on so many different levels. We are now in the 1 year anniversary of COVID, the pandemic, like when the government locked everything down in 2020 and all of our, this is my year became this is my fear. It's been a year, man, since the pandemic. I must say that 2020 wasn't as terrible for me. I mean, from all of the madness came the concept and the idea to do this podcast. And, I gave the sneak peek right before 2021 began. And then, of course, the season premiere started in January. And here we are in March. And so this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. And happy that, we're getting to the first quarter of 2021. Like, time is going fast. Next thing you know, by the fourth quarter, I'll be married. Counting down that as well. And it's just been quite the experience thus far. I mean, just the year. And there's been so much heartbreak and continual heartbreak around this pandemic. And, I feel good. I feel optimistic, I guess I will say, from all this. I'm seeing lots of good news. I mean, every time I turn around, they keep, Biden and the administration keep saying that there'll be enough vaccines for everybody. And like, at first that was July. Now I'm hearing, May. So things are happening really fast. Johnson & Johnson just put out their vaccine, and they collaborate with Merck, which was their rival, to like help speed up the process, which is really great. Lots of people are getting vaccinated. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people on my timeline that are just saying things like, just got vaccinated, got my vaccination schedule, getting vaccinated next week, and I'm happy to hear that. I'm really just happy to hear that people are, taking this seriously and just doing it, because we just really want to get things back to normal, and I ain't got no abstract on it. We know that normal was never normal for a lot of us, but shit, this ain't normal. Whatever this is far from it. And so I'm looking forward to shit being semi-normal or whatever, because this is not it. So I think we're getting close. It feels good. I always try to have an outline about how I'm going to go in these conversations, but then the flow, everything takes over. But like, I was about to say that as things are getting good, don't go crazy, y'all, still keep your mask on. And then it made me think about what the fuck's been going on in Texas, which is my home state. That's where I grew up, Houston, Texas. A lot goes on in Texas, and, a lot goes on in Pennsylvania too. So let me just say that, because a story just came out at my dear publication, Philly Mag. We did a story that basically said that more Pennsylvanians, have been getting arrested behind this insurrection shit than any other person or any other traitor from any other state. So not Texas, not Florida, Pennsylvania has had the most thugs arrested behind the insurrection that happened on January 6th. That was incited by the former President Donald Trump. So, don't point too many fingers, Pennsylvania, is what I'm really trying to say. But Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, who came after another horrible governor, Governor Rick Perry, who thinks he's he's some environmental dude or whatever. I don't know where the anyway, that administration. But he's out here telling people, look, I believe March, well, it's March now, but like March 11th, I think, um, they're going to start, or I think March 10th or something. It's going to be March to me. They're going to start opening up the city, um, opening up the state. Take that back. It's the state. And 100% business can open fully. Okay, so no half, 50% of the, no, he's saying, screw all that. We're going to open the state back up. Everything's going back to normal. No mask mandate. Turn up. Like, turn up. So apparently no mask starting March 10th is what, I've heard. So they're going to get back to quote unquote normal in Texas. But mind you, they just had a ridiculous, crazy weather situation that took out the power in most of the state and really put them, on the marker. A good friend of mine who's at the Washington Post, Karen Atia, she did a really great piece talking about Texas exceptionalism because she's also from Texas. She's from Dallas, which is not the same as Houston for those who like to, compare. That's like saying that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are like the same. No shade to Dallas. I enjoy Dallas. And the people that are there, like Karen. But she did a piece a couple of weeks ago about like goodbye to like the days of Texas exceptionalism because Texas is always like to be that state that like to brag, right? We're the second biggest state next to Alaska, but we're the biggest continental state. So like, there's a continental US, which is 48 states. Hawaii and Alaska aren't like fully connected to us, to the rest of the states. And so we're the second biggest. But we're, our population is big. I think California has the biggest population as far as people, but Texas is definitely up there. But I think there was something that said that Texas, I remember growing up and hearing this because Texas has always, tried to annex and be its own country. And there's always been that talk that Texas could be its own country in a way. Like it's so self-sufficient with its resources, its food, its cattle, its oil, its proximity to water. It could really like self-sustain itself as its own country. And a lot of people in Texas, like I'm telling you, growing up there, like they treat Texas like its own country. There's people that privately would wish for Texas to not be the United States, will not be a part of the United States. They would just want it to be its own. And the Texas flag is so iconic. I mean, no matter, even if there's a lot of people like, listen, there is no state flag that is more iconic than the Texas state flag. I don't know any other state flag in the United States that carries so much symbolism and familiarity outside of the Texas flag. Like the Texas flag is such a simple ass flag, but it's so recognizable. Like I didn't even know. I barely recognize what the Pennsylvania flag looks like. The New York flag. Like some of these flags are just so corny. They got like a little crest and that's it. Like Texas has red, white, and blue. Has a big ass star. Has the colors are very simple. Very close to the United States flag. Which is one flag, but that color scheme and that whole look. I mean, it's iconic, and everybody knows the Texas flag. Granted, hell, I bet you there are people that live in their own state that don't recognize their flag compared to the Texas flag. I can't think of another state that has a state flag that just has that much visibility, And that being said, I have been places where they have put the Texas state flag above the United States flag in certain areas of Texas. Like some places, even in buildings, structurally and, civil religion of it all, United States flag is like the flag and then everybody else comes second. But in Texas, you'll catch a couple of places and the Texas state flag is the Texas state flag. And there's just a deep, love for Texas that is people just forget. They don't even say they're an American. They're like, I'm a Texan. You don't really hear people run around Pennsylvania and be like, I'm a Pennsylvanian. Like, no one says that. Like, they'll say they're Philly, right? Like, they're a city. But, no one is in Texas, no one's, hype about being an American compared to being hype about a Texan. Like, Texas values. It's a real thing, guys. It's a cult. And I grew up in it, so I'm very much aware of that. And anyone who's lived in Texas can tell you the same thing. There's nothing like it. We just, yeah, we have our own interesting society. But that being said, like Greg Abbott's like fuck the United States, because the U.S. is like the mandate from Biden is like, no, you keep these masks on. These are the regulations. Texas is saying no, and so he said Biden referred to their behavior as Nathaniel. Like, he referred to them as Nathaniels, which is like, first of all, that's some heavy level shade. Like, Nathaniel, like, type of behavior. I mean, I was like, wow, Biden is going in. But he's at this point like, look, he doesn't want this to go off because let me be also clear. This has happened, in this has happened in Mississippi. Like, Mississippi is been talking about it and seeing it and stuff like that. And it's like I think it's very interesting, right? And we see this stuff happen all the time. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So you know, we see these things happen on various situations where Texas like to overrule the United States. With my family lives in Texas, and I've already told them don't listen to him. But they like already know they're not Republicans or anything like that. They're keeping their mask up. But like my mom was telling me that she's very like super cautious now, because now that everyone else is going to act like this is okay because the governor says it's okay, she's even more like going to like be cautious about going out, because basically it's like everybody was being like, not everyone, but it was a lot of people being smart, right? But now people are just taking this like whatever. And, Pennsylvania's not going to do that. I know that's not going to happen over here. But just the mere fact that there are some people out here who are, the moment. Just be patient, people. We're making progress. We're making progress. The numbers are going down. We're really, turning. We're getting a curve here. Herd immunity can be possible. Shit. But speaking of vaccinations, because it's a talk. I was snapped on Twitter the other day because a lot of people are doing. There's an article about vaccine envy, which, look, I love being a journalist and I love writing and I love telling stories and sharing opinions and perspectives. But sometimes, and I can say this because I'm in the business, sometimes we're doing the most. What the fuck is vaccine envy? Like, what is that? So apparently there's this subculture of people who, just to say rich, middle, affluent folks that are just bitter bitches that are just complaining about every fucking thing. But like, there's apparently this vaccine envy, this culture of, folks who are just, they're bitter inside that they haven't gotten a vaccine, and they're doing all types of expressions of bitterness and jealousy, and certain people are not disclosing they've been vaccinated because they don't know how others might read that. And some people who see others getting the vaccine are now saying, fuck HIPAA. Why did you get a vaccine? I didn't. It's none of your fucking business. That's what it is. And I think we got to get back to reminding people about etiquette and manners and culture. I don't know. Maybe people have been in the house so long that they forgot home training. They forgot basic etiquette and standards and manners. And I got to remind people that. You don't ask people how and why they got the vaccine. Don't do that. If it's a close friend of yours and you have a relationship with them, and see, I have to remind people what friends are, because people don't even know what friendship is anymore. Like, people think they're friends with people because they're Facebook friends with people. Newsflash. Facebook friends does not equal friends in real life. Quite frankly, it's not even the word friends. It's a digital network. You're not entitled to anything outside of what that person decides to share with you. I've had to tell people that. It's so weird. I mean, nobody acts like this on LinkedIn. But there's people who are asking people this. And it's very intrusive. And some people might share. They might share and say, hey, this is why I got the vaccine. I had a friend of mine who just was frank with someone because they got so fucking annoyed with people asking them. It was like, look, I qualified for I hit one of the qualifications. And they left it at that. This person's like, well, why? Because you're not under. It's like, are you fucking kidding? So this was like, I'm fat, I'm obese. They literally said, I'm fat, I'm obese. Leave me the fuck alone. That's a pre-existing condition that allows you to get the COVID vaccination. Did you know that if you're obese, you can qualify to get it right now? If you're a smoker in certain states, if you have other pre-existing health conditions for various reasons, you can. But there are people out here who are pestering people like, that's none of your business. Listen, if they got the vaccine and found a way to get it and whatever, it is what it is. But trying to but knocking on their fucking health record and their sheets to do it is just such a fucking disgusting thing to do. You know? You don't know what people's work is. Maybe they do work that they don't want you to know they do. Maybe they do volunteer work that they're not necessarily flashing around. Maybe they're taking care of a loved one that is involved or whatever the case might be. You don't know. It's none of your business. Mind your business. Worry about your ability to get a vaccine. Worry about that. And stop hating on somebody and what their circumstances is. You don't know what their need to get it is. If you are in, top-notch shape, you don't have any issues with your health or anything like that, well, just keep a fucking mask on and be fine and sit your ass down. But some people do high-risk shit and they need to get the vaccine faster than you. So rather than being bitchy about it, just calm the fuck down. I really have to say that. I've seen a lot of people doing that on social media and just doing some weird stuff. I'm like, and I've had to tell people, shaming people into telling them why. And, I've had all kind of people, like some of my followers have messaged me and said, I don't know what to do. This person's really pressing me to tell them how I got the vaccine before them because our job hasn't started and I didn't want to disclose. I said, you don't owe these people an explanation. You're telling them out of their fucking business. I really gave someone that advice. I told them, you just tell them to mind their fucking business. The fact that someone like Lily had to just say out loud that they were obese to get someone off their back. I mean, I don't give a fuck about people like that, like that outside of my circle, like strangers. I don't give a fuck about strangers to give them an explanation about anything. People feel so entitled to your time and to things. Sometimes, if we really want that to stop, we have to tell people to stop. There's nothing more uncomfortable than telling a person to stop or telling a person that will make them uncomfortable, not you. It's liberating. It's nothing more, it's setting people off when you tell them to back the fuck up. When you tell them, that's none of your business. When you tell them to stop right there. When you tell them to cease, right? When you do that, that changes the tone. And it reminds them of who they are in the situation, which is a total prick. And sometimes you have to remind people that sometimes. You can't sugarcoat it. You can't be gentle. Because some people are just jerks. And you just have to say, hey, that's not okay. I don't feel comfortable disclosing. And that will make them think the next time they do that to someone else. And sometimes I have to sit in that discomfort and be like, damn, I did do a little too much there. And the right thing to do is say, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. And stop. But we have to do that. And so if no one's told you that and you're listening to this show and you're one of those people who have vaccine envy, heed this advice and stop doing it. Because it's not going to go well. You're making that person uncomfortable, even if they won't say they are. And if they don't share that outwardly, then it's not your ability or your business to pry. So, on behalf of the people who've gotten vaccinated that don't got time to answer those questions, ask questions like, hey, what are those side effects? Did it hurt? Is it as bad as people say? More people will feel comfortable sharing those experiences than telling you their personal health business. Just some food for thought. Some things about this vaccine before I get into the other tea of the day, or the week, or the month, or forever. There's a lot of people been talking about some of these vaccination clinics and the way that some of these people are moving. There's a FEMA vaccination clinic that's in Philadelphia now, and they literally had to cancel a bunch of ineligible people that signed up. Listen, if it's for first fucking responders, let it be for first responders. There are some of you, and I will expose you. I will expose these groups that have these little private little vaccination Facebook groups that are, and it's white people doing it, upper middle class white people that are literally driving into hoods and neighborhoods. They are so scared to put their kids around, but will go drive up in an area to get a fucking vaccine so they can go back to their little privileged ass neighborhood and find ways to vilify and target and harm the very communities that they ran the fuck from, right? These same people. But they're looking in black neighborhoods and areas where they can go and get vaccinated. As if the other people that live in that neighborhood aren't worthy of it. And people are calling it cutting the line, whatever. But what happened in this situation was that some idiot, because this person's an idiot, basically got this link. The link was only for first responders because that's what they're taking care of over there. They got the link and then they sent it around other people. And a mass of people started to apply for and try to, do it. So what FEMA did was sent these people emails that said, no, you don't qualify. No, this is not for you. Go the fuck back. And shout out to FEMA for doing that. Not shout out to FEMA forever, because what they did to Katrina victims, okay, y'all remember that back in the early 2000s with Hurricane Katrina, they don't get pats on the back. But shout out to the people in Philadelphia who shut that shit down immediately. Because a lot of this has been going on in Philly for a minute. People just coming into other neighborhoods and feeling entitled and going ballistic because they can't get seen. Stop it. Seriously, stop it. Your neighborhoods don't have those vaccination clinics going fast because your area is not a hot spot for COVID. It's not. But you just want to get one so you can say you have one. You want to get one because it's the coolest fucking trend. So I'm happy that these organizations are telling people to go the fuck back. Stop doing it. Don't be that white person. Don't. Get out of these black neighborhoods taking up space. Don't be a colonizer. There's a lot of people doing that. All that Black Lives Matter, workshops and trainings about being allies and all of that crap you do. And then these things happen, you show yourself for who you really are. And that's why I don't believe in allies. And I listen to other folks who've talked about this over the years, people like Lisa Jones and others who question allyship. I don't believe them either. I don't believe allyship exists. Not in that way. Not like that, because every time it's a transactional thing. Like, if you want to get into it, this whole, I'm a this, I'm a that. Listen, if you look at it in this savior type mentality or superhero type mentality, you're doing it wrong. But the problem is people don't have the right language. How about you just, listen, a white person in servitude. Be a white person in servitude. That's what you could do. Be a white person in servitude to the cause or to the issue. I don't know if I invented that shit. I don't know if it's been said. It probably has. But just be in servitude. That's it. All these titles and buttons and safety pins and shit. Like, enough of that. Enough. Because in moments like this, like, where's the consistency? So moving along. Andrew Cuomo. Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York. I don't know what the hell is going on in New York. New York has been getting hit the hardest by all of this. Well, first of all, let me be clear. LA really has, because of the number of COVID cases. But at the end of the day, how do we know? Because, the nursing home numbers, Cuomo looked like he was high in that shit. So I don't really know what is going on in New York. But New York has been taking the biggest L during this entire pandemic. What started off as this big, huge hype around Andrew Cuomo, which, first of all, this country, man, people really are not consistent. I was following his gubernatorial race against Cynthia Nixon in the Democratic primaries a couple of years ago. And Cynthia Nixon, Hollywood actress, I don't know. I mean, she was a good candidate. I don't know if I would have pushed her for mayor. I mean, for governor, but I liked how she challenged Andrew Cuomo. I thought that she really called him out a lot of the shit that he's done over the years. He has his history. People don't really understand. Governor Cuomo is not like the nicest guy. He got reinvented during the pandemic, became the guy. Everyone was like, oh, he should run for president. He should run for office. I'm like, y'all are so quick to throw people up into these positions. I mean, kind of like what's happening with this PA Senate race, but I digress. People just get quick to put people on pedestals. And so they got really crazy about Cuomo. I remember everyone was like, people started saying he was cute. Then it was the love affair, adulation that he got on CNN. Because, his brother, Chris Cuomo, is his brother, the journalist, who I think looks better than him. But I think he's also younger than him. Um, they had this bromance literally during the pandemic where they were doing like these cute little interviews and talking about family. I was like, yo, this is journalism. What the fuck is this? This is primetime cable news. See that cable news stuff, man? But they were just like kiki and everybody thought it was good for ratings. And I was like, this isn't okay. And that was when I think Chris had gotten tested positive for COVID-19. And so they did this interview with his brother because his brother was hot shit, Andrew at the time, with all of the way they were talking about New York was handling this and how the governor was taking a stand, how he's bucking at Trump. I mean, it was just great fodder and people jumped on it. People ate it up like it was nobody's business. But it never sat well with me then because I was like, hey, this is not what you want to do because what if your brother fucks up? Dun, dun, dun. The brother fucks up. So Andrew Cuomo, the governor, has been accused of sexual harassment by former employees. Some of these people are talking about incidents that happen at weddings, happen in the office. He's talking about asking, allegedly asking some of these women questions like, would you sleep with older man? Can I kiss you? Just all kind of weird shit. And, I'm at the barbershop this week. And barbershop conversations, first of all, First Decisions. I've been getting my hair there for over 10 years, and that's why I look fabulous. My barber, who co-owns the shop, is incredible. The best damn barber in Philadelphia. The best barbershop in Philadelphia. I don't care what you say. My barber is your barber's fave, because that's how long he's been in the business. Over 25 years. In University City. People come far and wide to get their cut from him. And I was fortunate enough to get my hair cut from him. Sidebar, because I just have to brag on my barber and just First Decisions real quick. First of all, for any black man who is a black professional that get their haircut, everyone knows that next to their partner, their lawyer, and their tax collector, the next most important man in their life next to doctor too is the barber. Because the barber does things that no one else can do for them. They give them clarity, a peace of mind, a level of therapy that is crucial, and fixes the aestheticness of their presence. Okay, when I go into a barbershop, I feel like a piece of shit. I walk out like a bag of motherfucking money. That's what a barber do. No one can make me feel that way outside of my fiance, some good food and dinner and wine. There's a different feeling. There's like a relief of stress. I can't tell you when the naps get on the floor and the coils are on the floor and the hair is there and I begin to see that lining and I begin to see that fade. What it does to me is just, there's no feeling that feels that way when you get a haircut. I saw this touching story of this young black boy who was getting bullied in school, and his principal, who's a black man, was like, "Hey," he came to school with a cap on. He didn't want to take the cap off because he didn't like the way his lining was, his line, and so he was just felt like he was getting bullied, and the principal was like, "Look." He actually had some barber clippers. He actually clips. He had, I guess, had a background in cutting hair or knows how to cut hair. He says, look, if I line you up real quick, will you, commit to coming back to school, coming to class focused and everything? And he said, deal. And that made all the difference. That's all, a lineup, a fade, can make all the difference on a haircut. And so people underestimate hairlines, but it just, a good fade, a good lineup, it could change everything. And it did. The boy went back to school, went to class, focused again, and that's all it takes. That's sometimes all it takes, a good haircut. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Part of barbershop, not talk or locker room talk, but just chatter, as I describe it sometimes, is that we was talking about this Cuomo situation, and there was some interesting debate. But I appreciate most of the people in the room. So there were people like, oh, I mean, he asked for a kiss. How's that harmful? And there was a guy at the shop, and he was at him. He said, what do you mean? That's weird as shit. Like, he doesn't know that girl. Like, asking someone, just coming to somebody asking for a kiss, like, does that not seem weird to you all? And I mean, clearly, I understood that. Like, I get it. But it was just the way that he said it and the way he had posed his question made everyone realize how weird and fucked up what Cuomo did. It's like, take a step back. Stop asking the surface level. Because there are people in the room who had this narrative around, oh, well, is it sexual harassment? Like, I mean, well, that part, everyone kind of was on that part. Like, that wasn't a debate. But they were just saying, like, well, Cuomo wasn't married then, and yada yada. I was like, does it matter? Like, does it matter? Who cares about his marital status? Like, is that the scandal of it all? Like, was it a problem? And then we was like, it's a man in power. He's a fucking elected official. He's asking his inferior, a co-worker, someone under him in his way, for a kiss. And that's not okay. And all this light flirtations, no. And I think the problem happens in this, and this is why it's so hard, even as a journalist, when you talk about sexual harassment within power structures and dynamics, right? And a lot of people put themselves in those shoes as if they're like they think of it through their view. They're like, well, if I ask a girl for a kiss, I mean, am I that terrible? It's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that, because if you don't know who goes up to strangers or people they don't have any type of relationship with in that way and just asks for something like that. I mean, granted, fuck, can I get a handshake? Shit, a kiss? We're just gonna go from this to this like, that's wow. Like, really, if you think about it, like, you're just going up to people asking people for a kiss, or just feeling like you could just ask for something like that isn't. That's creepy. That's doing the fucking most. Especially if that wasn't it wasn't an energy. There wasn't communication between both parties where there was those flirtations back. This was not that. The accusers are saying it was not a reciprocal vibe on their end. It wasn't like both of them were flirting and that it was a very clear he was shooting a shot that wasn't landing anywhere. And you got to be clear about that, And it's not to say that mistakes can't happen, right? That people can't shoot a shot that falls, but it's also dynamics, right? Because remember, these are not equals. This is the boss asking a lower end staffer for these types of sexual provocations. No. And then asking those questions. First of all, we all know. I don't care what anybody say. When he asked her, do she sleep with older men? If you're an old man asking that question, who are you asking for? Who are you asking for? Exactly. You asking for yourself. and you trying to get an answer, because then that's going to lead to what the next question is. Trust me, been there, done that, okay? And what I mean by that is I have been on the receiving end of older men in power who have asked me questions like that. And then, of course, you know what the follow-up is. Now, when I was single and was free to mingle, I depending on who that person was, that answer had a different answer, right? So when I, was out and about and I was, first of all, okay. I got in my relationship at 22. So when I was 21 and I was able to go to bars and drink, and I was going out in the neighborhood, I had a couple of older men try to hit on me. And in certain cases, they would ask, depending on who it was. I mean, they never was like, oh, you sleep with older men. They would say, oh, you into old men? And I was like, well, it depends on the one. Now, if he was a cute older man. But if it was like a guy I was not attracted to, I was like, I'm good. I'm chilling. That's how you dismiss. And you know what? Most people stop there. Most people of that stature, no one that was my boss, no one that was, I don't do that. I don't fuck where I eat or live. I don't do that. But if I was at the bar, I was at the neighborhood bar, I was on the dance floor, hey, that's a different dynamic. But internships, fellowships, programs like that, oh, no. I was like that. I didn't even like mess around with anyone I was in a program with that was like my age. I never got down like that. Because I saw, first of all, straight people are hilarious. I saw so many of my straight friends doing shit like that. I was like, ooh, I hated the drama. And then most of the time, well, see, I'm going all the way in. Most of the time, most of those programs, it wasn't that many gay people or people that I felt interested in that kind of way anyway. So, or you find out there's a dude that's straight. Well, he says he's straight, and then you find out he has a crush on you. Like, okay, still not interested. But like, I just never was into that. Like doing, like sleeping with people in programs I was in internship programs. Now, if the program was over and I thought you was cute and you on one side, I'm on the other side, maybe. But like in the process, no, no, because it never ends well. 90% of the time, it never ends well. Sometimes I always tell people when I hear stuff like this, I say, no, don't sleep with someone in your internship program. Don't sleep with staff and you're an intern. It just never works. The power dynamics involved. It just listen. I got real during like when I was in DC and I was doing a DC. I was in my DC internship and all that stuff. I got very familiar with myself very fast because I was not about to be in all of that type of stuff because this is the stuff that happens. So what Cuomo was doing, basically he was propositioning, allegedly. And that kind of stuff is messed up. I saw this special. So on Hulu, they put ABC documentaries. There's this one called Secrets and Lies, and it's about the Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal. And child, first of all, I've read up into that. I'm really like I read the Star Report when I was in high school. Please don't ask why. I was just one of those inquisitive ass kids. But I was really into that case because it was just so salacious. But one of the things that people don't know is like, listen, Bill and Monica, there was a lot going on. And let me be clear, even though they didn't have sexual penetration, there was definitely clearly oral sex. They did stuff multiple times. And he was giving this woman gifts. Okay? He was giving her Walt Whitman books and shit, poetry books and writing letters. There was a lot of stuff going on between them. Okay? And Bill was the president of the United States. She was like in her early 20s, clearly had some political connections to get that internship. He was telling her he was going to get her back in the White House and all this. And she was saying what she got to do. And one of her memos said, well, she had to be the special assistant of blowjobs or secretary of blowjobs. There was a lot of stuff going on. Now, mind you, she was back then young and dumb and, she was grown. But Bill was definitely leveraging his power in that type of way. Clearly, the power dynamic no one should have ever treated those two like they were on the same footing. She was an intern. Okay, it wasn't like she was a staffer because there was speculation that he messed around with his staffers back in Arkansas when he was the governor. But the dynamics are messed up. And Cuomo looked like he was trying to put himself in some situation like that. So apparently he's apologized to the state. He's trying to, do a lot of that, but he is refusing to resign. So he's not going to resign. And I guess he's not trying to admit, he's not admitting to any of these things, but doing if there was a thing that happened, it was a joke kind of thing. Like he's passing by it all, but there are urges from people. People are urging for him to step down. Listen. Republicans can't ask for anybody to step down. That's all I'm going to say. Not that I'm comparing Cuomo. I think that Cuomo, I think, I mean, I feel like I think whatever the victims want. I'm not in a position to. I'm not going to speak for victims. Whatever. If they feel like he should step down, if there is a real call for him to step down from the women who were targeted by him, then I feel like that should be what he should do. It's interesting. he does deserve a trial. I think there needs to be some. I mean, I hear there's an investigation. I want to see. I want to see more from what should be. I don't know. I don't know where I'm at to say myself he should resign behind the situation himself. Um, I would like to see more. I would like to see more of an investigation. I mean, I'm pretty much sold. I mean, if they're like, look, he's a fucked up dude. He should resign. He should resign. But I'm curious to see what what more of the investigation will come, because clearly there'll be more, and what comes of that, I think, if there is more, which clearly could be the case, I think the argument for him to resign would stand stronger, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But if the victims want him to, I ain't saying he shouldn't. Shit, white man with privilege and power, shit, he should have known better. All right. So this stimulus package and Biden, people ask me what I think about it, this $80,000. Well, I'm not going to, all I got to say is that the stimulus packages were good while they lasted. That's all I'm going to say on that. On my end about it, listen, what really pisses me off about this whole stimulus package thing, a lot of people feel like they got ripped off or misled behind it, because everybody was wanting their $2,000 checks, and Democrats are saying they're going to get $2,000 checks, and so people are still trying to wait to figure out if that's going to happen. Folks feel like they're being misled, whatever. Those are Republicans, by the way, making those complaints. And it's been interesting for Biden because, Biden's doing a lot, right? Biden won't pursue or push the $15 hour situation, but tried to push Neera Tandem, who basically took herself out for the OMB position, which is basically she was been dealing with the budget, federal budget. And basically because of her previous actions, some of her tweets that pissed people off on both aisles, both political aisles. I mean, she would have been the first Indian American to have the position. That's what a lot of people were framing it as. She's going to be fine. Biden's going to find her something in the administration that doesn't require a Senate approval. But, I had some conversations with some national editors that I was working with on a piece about these appointments. And I was saying that this was going to be a problem. And they were like, oh, Ernest, I don't think so. That's so petty. She's really experienced. She's this, she's that. I was like, okay, don't listen to the black writer, but you'll find out. And then they found out. And I mean, not that I'm petty, but I sent him out and I followed up because I did another piece about the appointments last week about how they're targeting, the Republicans are targeting, appointees of color. Like a lot of these black and brown appointees are getting hit with a lot of bullshit and all this, gridlock and shit to get approved. I mean, most of them they'll make it through. She just wasn't. And it became very clear. And so she had to get out of it. But all this to say, they was fighting for her, but couldn't fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage, which is so frustrating because by the time they get to that, the minimum wage will probably need to be $20 based on inflation or budgets or whatever the case is. The minimum wage will need to end up being around $20 an hour by the time they figure it out. So $15 an hour was sexy a couple years ago, 8 years ago, $15 an hour was desirable or talked about. Shit, so much has happened now. I really feel like the minimum wage should be 20. But that's me, and no one's going to do it, but it should be $20, y'all. 18 if you're nasty. Well, really, 20 if you're nasty, 18 if you're missionary. But $15 an hour, I mean, they can't even, listen, right now they did $15 an hour, fine. For minimum wage, fine. I think it's pretty good, actually, in some cases. But really, if we're talking serious business, 18 to 20 is where you start really closing up some real gaps. I feel like $18 to $20 an hour minimum wage would really close some gaps. That's when you start hitting some shit. I feel like 15 is just getting everybody the basic standard, but barely, because even then, that's on a slippery slope. If a life experience happens, you're going to plummet, right? 18 to 20, you be surprised. That hump, that jump right there will make that difference because I don't know where we're at now. $12 a month. I don't. I've been fortunate and blessed to not have to work a minimum wage job in my adulthood. Um, my brother is right now. He's working at a place called Teriyaki. What did he tell me? It's Teriyaki Obsession or Sensation or Devastation. I really. I was like he has he's getting those cute little mall jobs and places. This place it's an Asian restaurant and it's like it's one of I don't know how to describe it. Like it's one of those it's one of these Chinese like quick fast restaurants that people like Payway, like it's like a Payway or a Panda Express, something like that. He's working there, and I was like, okay, but he likes it, he likes it. Um, and I just was like, I was like, well, do you come home smelling like it? Like, do you come home smelling like? Because, but he says he's working. He works the front counter, so he's not in the kitchen, which I'm happy about because his cooking skills. Yeah, he's gonna be 18 later this month, and I'm not prepared for that. To be honest, as his big brother, I'm still like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're 18? What do you mean? What does that mean? Because if you're 18, like, what about me? What about so it's called Teriyaki Madness. I think it's called that. That's what I think it's called. I just wanna I just want to know about it myself actually. Yes, it's called Teriyaki Madness and it's an Asian fusion restaurant. And there apparently there's one in Jersey too. So I don't know if they're the same company. I'm just fascinated by this that he has this job here. I'm just like, oh my goodness, he's applying to colleges. It's a lot. In a good way, he's growing up, but it's just still so it's just so weird. Like I just remember when I was leaving high school, which was not that long ago. That was like in 2010. Time goes by so fast, and he was like 6, I think he was. Yeah, he's like 6, and yeah, it's just life. So they get older. Um, so yeah, minimum wage should be higher. Speaking of which, Trump's comeback, well, attempted comeback at CPAC this weekend. You all probably heard about this. Trump finally comes out of Chewbacca's cave after several weeks of being silent, being hidden. And I have to say, I did miss him. But you already knew that. He was like, he does not support a third party creation. He's really much, well, I mean, at this point, why would he need to? Because given everything that's been going on already with, everything that's going on with the Republican Party, I mean, they're backing him. So he doesn't really have to create a third party. Granted, Mitch McConnell would like to see that, but it's not happening. So he's pretty safe. I mean, Trump has been protected. I mean, let me be clear. He's safe within his party. Let's be very clear. Leticia James over there in New York is going to get on that ass. I keep telling people this. It's coming for him. The statewide courts, they're going to do it. The citywide folks in New York, Manhattan, people investigating, they're going to get his ass. Republican Party didn't have the balls to, but the states will. I think the Republican Party had just been like, they're going to stick with him. And he gets that, and his speech was he was very low energy. I don't know. I did watch some of it, for research purposes, of course, not leisure, goodness. But he just rambled for nearly about 90 minutes. He just rambled and rambled and rambled. Transphobia, more remarks, hinting that he might run again, but not confirming it. I mean, he was late as hell to the damn thing. And he's just I'm just like, yeah, you're going to go. But he's talking about, endorsing these Senate candidates, and these senators and these other folks in 2 years. Because, next year we're at the midterms. I mean, shit be going by fast. Trump's term kind of went by a little fast. A little long, but a little fast at the same time. But These elections be going fast. Next year's the midterms, y'all. I would hate to be a congressperson because Congress has elections like every other year. You can never really have fun in Congress. Now, them Senate, Senate, you get 6 years. That's a long time to be a senator. That's a pretty good, you get a little bit of time to be a senator. But damn it, you don't get any time. You could be a senator for one term and be ready for president because that's about 3 congressional terms. That's a presidency and a half. That's a long ass time to be a senator. Senators don't have to be, they don't have to be multiple terms. Some people love that shit. But I mean, like Hillary served as senator like one term. She didn't stay up in there that long. She was there for one time, ran for, served as senator for one term, turned around, ran for president the first time against Obama, lost, became Secretary of State, and she kept it moving. Hillary wasn't playing all that. And shout out to Hillary for I was just watching that documentary. Like I said, I watched this documentary, and like people was wondering why she stood by Bill during that because she was like, "Motherfucker, I done worked too hard to get to this point to let you and your sexual failures and your sexcapades stop the bag for me." So it comes clear to me now, in retrospect, why Hillary stayed. She wasn't staying for him. She was staying for herself, as she should, because she recognized that if he went down, she was going to go down. You think single Hillary would have been able to achieve those things at the time? I'm not saying women can't achieve. I'm saying at that era, in the late 90s, early 2000s, what we know about political power back then, Hillary was not going to have the opportunity to. Everybody acts like the resolve for her would have been, you could have left him, girl, and everybody was going to come behind you and support you. They would have sat up there. She would have wrote a book. They would have gave her a Barbara Walters interview, an Oprah interview, and then we would have forgotten about her and life would have moved on. She did not want that to be her fate. That it all ends for her through his demise. She leaves, has to be the strong single woman with the daughter. Like, that's not what she wanted. And I get it. I get it now. A long time ago, I never understood that. But now I get it. Not from personal experience, because Lord knows that's not my experience. But I definitely get why. Because when you see what had happened after, you recognize and realize that if she would have stopped everything then, the rest would have not happened. She would have never been the first woman to be a major candidate for president from a major party's nomination. She would have never gotten that. So, she knew what her destiny was. She didn't fulfill the presidency, but she did get close. And she was not about to let Bill and his dirty dick be the end of that. So I think, just sidebar, some people do. I don't know. Melania, what you staying with Trump for? What you got in this? What you gonna do, Melania? You about to get something out of this, sis? I don't think she's gonna pull what Hillary did, but maybe Melania is just with him because she ain't got nowhere else to go. That could just be what it is for her. If she leaves Trump, where's she going? What's she doing? They probably did a prenup. But what's she doing? What's she doing? Now, Michelle Obama ain't going anywhere. They're good, right? They don't have any problems. Problems that are divorceable, based on what we see. I think she could be the only one to leave, and the person that would suffer from that would be Obama, not Michelle. If Michelle left, Obama would be at loss. He would feel that. But these white presidents we've had, no, their first ladies, I personally feel like it would have not been the thing that they would have still did, because that's what privilege looks like. That's what white straight male privilege looks like. And so, yeah, interesting. So someone's been hitting me up about this, and I do have various thoughts about it. But there has been this weird, in the midst of all this quote unquote progress, right? So as you all probably have heard in the news, the Equality Act, which will be the complete federal end to LGBTQIA discrimination across the board. The bill has gotten passed by the House. It's in limbo if it's going to pass in the Senate, because I think a lot of people thought that with these Senate votes that, you know, the Democrats have the majority, so they'll be able to get things done immediately. That's not the case. In certain cases, as we saw with the recent Trump impeachment trial, certain votes require 2/3, and so you got to get 2/3 of the Senate to pass impeachments and other types of laws. So with the Equality Act, once it gets to the Senate, it passed the House. Only a few Republicans supported it, apparently, in the House, but the Democrats had the House, so that worked. But there was a lot of hatred and bigotry being spewed by congressmen that were in the House, and I'm concerned that once it goes to the Senate, I don't know if it's going to pass, y'all. Like, hopefully this could be it. Maybe some Republican senators might see a light, but it's just hard because with the 100, they would need about 60. They would need like 2/3, so they would need like 66, like around 60, 60, 64 people to vote in favor of it. All the Democrats will do, that'd be 51. So they would need they would need 15 Republicans, it looks like, to switch. That's hard. That's hard. I don't know. I don't know. And people want to be optimistic. I would like to be optimistic, but I don't know. I don't know if they'll do it. They'll be able to do it. The House again passed it, but a lot of stuff goes through the House. And then when it hits the Senate, that's when the shit happens. I mean, the House always gets, Trump impeached or votes to impeach him. The House passes the impeachment. But then when we get to the Senate, that's when everything gets shitty. And so I don't know if it's going to happen. It would be nice, anything. Listen, miracles happen. Look what happened in Georgia. Like, who would have thought that those runoff races would have been the way they were? So I'm not completely pessimistic, but I am cautious about it. And I've had a couple of friends getting really excited. I'm just like, we've kind of been in these moments, but like, I'm happy that's in the national conversation. But what also has been a national conversation is that in a lot of states, we're seeing a rise in a lot of anti-LGBTQ laws, but specifically laws that are targeting the transgender community. Conversations around athletes. So there's people that are banning transgender women from participating in women's sports. And let me be clear, those sports don't belong to cisgender women. They belong to women. But there are people who, are making conversations about biology and physiology and unfair advantage and all these different things. And I just think that's it's transphobic as fuck. It's just not. It's the interesting thing is that people's transphobia comes out in these like very weird ways. So they'll say, I don't care about anything else, but the sports thing is like blah 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 blah. There's just so much wrong there. And I think the problem is that when you start trying to create laws that play with that type of shit, then you start dehumanizing the person, where then they'll push other laws that will target people for various reasons. And I think that that's the issue that I have with these types of laws, is that they try to make it seem like it's just about sports and, the different anatomies. But then it becomes the anti-bat, it's what they did with the bathroom. It's what they did with other laws, right? Where they started with the bathroom and public accommodations and IDs and names. Oh, they will try everything because they've tried it before, because they've created avalanches and they've created these types of slopes. And so they're really using this bill to create a rationale to legislate transphobia outside of just simply this situation. And I need people who are cisgender, specifically, and let me be clear, cisgender people are people that are not transgender. So basically people who identify, whose biological birth is on paper aligns with their gender at birth. So that's cisgender basically. So you know these individuals who that are especially heterosexuals, cis-hets, right? Because not all people that are cisgender are heterosexual, and not all people that are heterosexual are cisgender. Think about it. But specifically, um, straight cisgender people. I need you to listen to transgender people on this issue. Seriously. I'm doing a story that's talking about anti-LGBTQ laws, and I've talked to several trans people, trans men and trans women, who are from across the country, from different parts, that are sharing their thoughts about how these laws work. And I want you to understand that this extreme fear that you're having and this phobia around these things are such a minute issue, like sports, that it's not worth what's going to come if these types of laws really go into effect. Because it starts with this type of shit. And then there'll be other things that the Republicans specifically will fuck with. And then next thing you know, you gotta you're treating people again like second class citizens or even third class citizens. And this issue, there's a couple of cases where you think, oh, that shouldn't happen, it shouldn't whatever. But no, because there used to be back in the day arguments about the athleticism of black people, where they were comparing black people to animals and acting like there was some unfair advantage in the athleticism or the build of black people on an animalistic level that did not match that of white people. And so we were being compared as animals. We were being compared in ways that they tried to say were not natural. And so I see this type of logic happening in the way that conversations around transgender people participating in sports. It's the same way they tried to dehumanize black people back in the day, where they tried to suggest that we weren't, our physicality gave us unfair advantages based on genetics and things. It's racism, it's bigotry, it's hate, it's all of those things. And these things happen, the way that they're talking about this now echoes the same way they talked about black people and people of color in different fields and spaces. It's a true thing. I remember even with Asians, there's a lot of anti-Asian sentiment that's happening in this country. I remember when there was conversations around college admissions and IQ and thoughts and stereotypes about Asians and their thinking and educational ability, which was, again, all of this was very problematic and racist and things, but ways to try to cut those people out because they thought of a quote unquote unfair advantage. But trying to connect it to biological aspects rather than just sociology. Like there are women that are tall. There are women that are small or big, short, whatever. And to go far to try to question someone's biological birth and things of that nature, fuck that. Like fuck that, Because I heard a transphobe in some hate group section, because I was trying to figure out and hear some of the things they said. They don't want to stop at the sports thing. What's going to happen next is that there'll be a conversation around jobs. Well, they'll say, well, should biological, non-biological women apply for jobs that are for women? Would that give them an unfair advantage? Would that really count towards women? Or would that be biased because a man is applying their logic? So it's the transphobia to misgender people. And I've seen people say that, because to say that a transgender woman cannot participate in women's sports is to say that she's not a woman. It's to deny her of her gender identity and to strip her of that right. And that is why it's inhumane, because you don't get to decide that. And at the end of the day, there's been many transgender athletes that's probably played sports, and people did not know because they probably did not self-identify in history. And guess what? It's none of your business. It's not your right. And I think that like this is what I mean by like sports being like this civic religion in this country. People are really like will go tooth and nail over a fucking ball being kicked. People will go, toe and toe about it. Go lose their mind about sports. Like sports is like a gospel to them. Like they have to breathe it and indulge in it. And it has to be, it's just ridiculous. Sports. But I say all that to say, but then outside of that, and this is why I brought this up, is that in the pursuit to address sports, there is this pursuit to stop transgender kids from getting, teenagers actually, from getting gender affirming medication, hormones, whatever the things that they need to be their best selves. There's legislation being passed in places like Alabama. People are talking about this stuff in Tennessee and other these, southern states where they're trying to push for these types of laws, specifically laws that are banning transgender athletes and also student athletes, and also banning transgender teens from getting medical assistance for their identity. And again, study this stuff. People are like, that's messing the kid. What if the kid you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. There are people, like I said, there is a science to this. Okay. As someone who has been an LGBTQ editor, who has covered LGBTQ issues, specifically transgender issues, there are people who there's a whole process to one being able to walk in their truth and their full identity. And it's not a wake up like oh snap, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be a man or I'm going to be a woman. Like, it's not like that. Like, there's documented research and studies that show that people experience a thing called gender dysphoria. It's a real issue where a person psychologically and mentally and really physically are completely uncomfortable in their skin, and they have all types of reactions in ways: high anxiety, physical discomfort, a lot of mental distress, expressions. They basically are adamant, reactive to this situation they have in their body because they feel very uncomfortable. And it's a feeling that only a gender person can experience, only a person in that circumstance can experience, because they know they're not in their right gender. And they respond in those ways. And they go through therapy. They have several sessions and consultations, okay, to go through the process in the legitimate way, okay, to go through the process to getting hormones and getting therapy. It's a process. It's not just I'm just waking up, this is who I am. No, it's not like that. And it's so disrespectful that people do not educate themselves to really understand this issue. If you're going to have an opinion, have an informed opinion, have an educated opinion, listen to science, listen to people who have had those experiences, listen to people who go through the process to the confirmation of their actual gender, to walk in the identity to which they are. You have to read. And so if you continue to do this thing, which is what we talked about earlier, where you try to place your experience and your mindset in the shoes of someone without their experience or their determination. So it's like I said earlier, where there's guys who are like, oh, well, Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, I don't see what he did that was wrong. What's wrong with asking if I ask for kids, you're not the fucking governor. You're not in the governor's shoes. You don't get to be in that position to think in that way until you have that power, because everything changes when you change that position. So you can't talk about it as a regular citizen. You have to think about it through being what it looks like to be a governor. So you can't talk about this as a cisgender person about what they should do and what they are, because you're not a trans person. The only thing you should do is listen and learn from those individuals who go through that process. And as someone who's a journalist who's interviewed several transgender people in my entire life who have covered these issues and have learned so much on the record, off the record, background and everything else, it's not this, wham, bam, you're done thing. It's a real series of work and therapy and just conversations and reflections. And it's a lot of work to get to that point. And so when people, are affirmed in their gender identity and they live in their truth and they walk in their right? And they are who they are, right? They get to be the gender that they're supposed to be. Their mental health, their abilities to be productive, their hunger to live, that changes. And at that point, some individuals, some identify as transgender at that point, and some don't, because they are gender congruent. And gender congruency and is that's the where their gender aligns with their identity, the identity that they are, right? That's a big deal, and people have to be at a point where you have to acknowledge that how people identify as themselves is who they are. You don't get to tell someone who they are like they can't tell themselves who they are. And let me be very clear about that, because there's some people that will try to pull this card, and I'm going to get that situation settled. The experience to getting to gender identity from gender dysphoria, to that journey of understanding that's clinical research, that's clinical studies, that's a real thing. This idea, well, then what about being transracial? There's no such thing as being transracial. Rachel Dolezal is a scammer. Rachel Dolezal is a liar. Rachel Dolezal is someone who wanted to be black when it was convenient for her. Rachel Dolezal is somebody who has used this stunt to keep herself relevant. And when those stunts ran out, she decided to announce that she was bisexual. When no one cared, she decided to go back and talk about how hard it is for her to get a job. Yes, because when you're a liar, nobody wants to hire a liar. You're not going through it because you're a black woman. You're going through it because you're a liar. And that's the reality. And really what's sick is that she's an exception to that rule, right? People who deal with gender dysphoria, that's been going on for decades. There's countless research. There's a community of people who have this experience. What Rachel Dolezal experienced is not a wave, a movement. And the fucked up part about it is what's so racist about it is that she thinks that she's black based on aesthetic, performative things, right? Like black people, to be a black person, to live in this experience, it's a psychological, emotional experience that carries weight based on that lived experience. Like what it feels like what it feels like to walk, like to be a black man, to live in America, to navigate different opportunities. There are psychological and physical things that takes a toll on me in ways that are triggered by environmental experiences. When police are in my presence, it makes me feel some type of fucking way. I don't feel safe. In some situations, depending on if I'm not around people, my hands might get sweaty. These are physical experiences that several black men go through. Not everyone may go through it the same way, but there are unique physical experiences that is attached to blackness. And if you ever talk to a black woman or a black man or a black sibling or anyone in these communities, you will find that there's patterns. There's research about breathing, heart rate, experiences that a white person do not feel in the same environments. And that is race-based health studies. It's a real fucking thing. Read about this. It's a real thing. And that is the type of physiological science that people don't talk about that shapes experiences around race and identity beyond just this aesthetic of, well, I like fried chicken. And I like to listen to rap music. And I like Kente cloth. And I like reading off. Listen, I'm obsessed with a lot of white shit, quote unquote. I like Taylor Swift's music. Her newer music, not some of the older stuff. I like Taylor Swift music. I like Italian food. Okay. Yeah, those are white things. Because I'm not Italian. There are some black Italians, but I don't really know what is white, because historically white people have had a history of stealing things. Christopher Columbus, America, black people. I mean, they stole black people, brought them to the United States, enslaved. So I don't really know what is white culture. But I'm saying, what is white culture? I mean, is it theft? Is theft white culture? Well, that's not even white culture. I mean, they kind of, yeah. I don't know. What is white culture? No, but really though, what is white culture? I mean, racism is a white thing. Like white supremacy and racism is like white culture. But I don't know. Like people say stuff like, "Oh, hillbilly stuff." I mean, I guess, but like it's that could be a whole podcast episode by itself. I will say this. I think that stereotypes is what we could say. So I'm saying stereotypically, there are things that I like that aren't ascribed directly to black people, and that does not make me any less black, is what I'm getting to. So like Taylor Swift makes her music, it's not hip hop, it's not rap, it's not jazz, it's not blues. Pop did get created by black people, but the way she does her pop most of the time plays it something more alternative. But I like her music. Like I said, I like Italian food, I don't think black people made Italian food. Maybe they did. Who knows? We made Jack Daniels shit. I thought whiskey. See, for as much as I know, I mean, the Italian food that I eat, I think is by white people or Italian people or Anglo-Saxons, as they call it, or Europeans that are not black. But that doesn't make me not any less black. So the point I'm trying to make is you can have cultural appreciation and not lose your fucking culture. It's called cultural appreciation, not appropriation. Okay, what she did was appropriate the culture. All right, she could have just been someone who appreciated it, but then she tried to appropriate it, and she actually did, and then did the most to exploit it in a way that she tried to take the identity herself. So Rachel Dolezal is really a cultural appropriator. She's a white woman. She's a white woman. And she thinks that because of her strong, deranged appreciation or obsession for black culture, that somehow that makes her, whatever. But I say all that to say, back to what I was saying, is that that's not the same as those people that go through gender dysphoria. It's not an obsession or an infatuation with the opposite gender. They believe they are that gender because they are that gender. Because their entire physical science and their social mental health is connected to those experiences. And that's not the same as someone who's out here doing this with race. And so I think that that's what people have to understand, is that you really got to take time to talk to people. No one would put themselves through any type of surgery or any type of hormones or any of those things if they thought that it was just a fluke or a phase. It's a process, and it's a journey, and it's experience for those people that walk into their realness and walk into their truth. And people need to leave them alone. That's all I got to say on that. So, the Golden Globes happened, and I feel some type of way. Not about first of all, we know, yes, they have no black people part of their academy. Yes, like over 80-something members and like 87 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press, and there are no black people on it, and people are talking about it in an outrage. White people and their lack of diversity. Part 3,000 and 1,766,000 times. Yes, fuck that. But let's get into these winners. Let's get into what the fuck was going on. There were some good moments and there were some what the fuck moments. And I know that some of these good moments were good as TV moments, but like fucked up my like grid bar. And the Hollywood movie gays like myself who are into this stuff, like I know the straights like their Super Bowl shit, but over here we like we like Oscars and tallies and Tonys and Grammys and award show predictions and shit, and like this really fucked up my grid bar. Like have a how what the straights do with the football thing is like a chart, like a future map or March Madness grid. I guess they call it a grid. I want to get it right because the straights will get mad at me if I don't say it right, and they'll taunt me and they'll tweet me. And so, what do you all call that thing? March bracket. It fucked up my bracket. I have a bracket, okay, and my Oscar bracket listen, anybody who know me with this, I'm really good at it because I really watch these movies. I really get into it, and it's my hobby. So if my bracket got fucked up a little bit, I like I told you, I did tell you all that Nomadland is that movie, and I told you that that Chloe Zhao, I was feeling her, and she won Best Director, became the first woman of color to win the Golden Globe for Best Director. And so I was like, okay, applause. I like that. But let's get into this Best Actress race, the drama. Andra Day won. And if y'all know who Andra Day is, she's the woman who famously sings that song that y'all love to fucking play on every commercial. Henry, rise up. Woo! I swear they play that song like it's no one. Like, I feel like every 3 years, there's always like that one song or two songs that people just overplay. Like, remember when Hillary Clinton was Fight Song? I cannot hear Fight Song by Rachel Platt. I cannot hear Fight Song. Like, I can't hear that song anymore. Every time I hear it, I'm just like, it takes me back to the Hillary era and the losses and the hype, and I get triggered. Fight Song was that little song that I had to play. No One, remember No One, like by Alicia Keys. Remember Girl on Fire? Oh my God, I can't. I hate the song Girl on Fire. It's like it gives me like white feminist, like swagger jack. Like I feel like a white progressive feminist plays Girl on Fire when she goes jogging and just feels this level of. I mean, listen, Alicia Keys is talented, but sometimes Alicia Keys makes music that's just a little corny. And I think Girl on Fire is just corny. But it's a great seller. I mean, it's that kind of music that will sell. Listen, she knew what she was doing. Like, I feel like Alicia Keys is at this point in her career where she's not really trying to make like really profound music. It's just like she's like, what's gonna be the cute little innocuous motivational song? Like she makes a bunch of that music now, and it's just like she's so like hippie peaceful and super tranquil. I mean, I guess that's cool. I get it, but it's like, oh my God, like her. Well, I'm gonna digress a little bit. May I digress? It's like Will Smith. Like Will Smith reads the fucking The Alchemist, and thinks he's some magical thinker. It's like every motherfuckers be out here. Hollywood is so weird sometimes. Like he just said the other day, like he thinks that he's never met a smart racist before, and was on like Pod Save America or whatever talking about this. And I'm like, stop asking the fucking Smiths. Listen, Will Smith is from Philly, West Philadelphia, born and raised, talented man, Hollywood actor, Hollywood legend. Can't take that from him. But when it comes to talking about race and social issues, Will Smith don't be knowing what the fuck he's talking about. And neither does his wife Jada Pinkett Smith. That red table talk, listen, some of the stuff they say on there, I'm like, no. My critical race thinking hat explodes. My intersectional lens explodes. Like, I'm like, want to throw books at them. I want to find their address and mail them books to read. Because the books they're reading is bullshit. Like, they read, like, books like Alec Tolkien or, that guy who Tolan or whoever who writes about, successful, grateful life. Remember that book, the purpose-driven, they read that kind of shit. And The Alchemist and that kind of shit. And they think there's some deep fucking thinkers and they then uncrack the Da Vinci Code on life. Stop it. Like, he's like on this podcast saying how he doesn't like, he thinks that, he's like, he's never met a racist person that's smart, like they're dumb, and plays into this whole thing. Listen, y'all. Listen. Let me tell y'all something about racists and white supremacists. Okay? There are those who say just the N-word and do dumb shit like that and dumb and whatever. But let me be very clear with you. And let me be very clear with Mr. Willard. Racist people are some of the biggest geniuses that we saw on this earth. Hitler was a genius. And he was a racist. He was not dumb. Hitler had a vision, a plan, a strategy. It was very articulate. It was very intelligent. He wrote a book about the shit. Mein Kampf explored those thoughts. He was, very strategic, very methodical. He had a plan and succeeded to a certain extent before he killed himself. Coward. But he did. No dummy. Donald Trump, yeah, he's dumb in some cases, but very, very, very shrewd, right? Because how does a man who's come from money their entire life is strategic enough to convince some of the poorest white people in this fucking city and this fucking country, right? Including his city, but in his country, that he is their voice when his money, his wealth exploited them and has kept them more down than anybody else, including the first black president. They think Obama, the man who gave them affordable health care, is more of a threat to their livelihood than the rich white capitalist billionaire that exploited them and was part of the reason why they're where they're at. They're like, fuck the 1%. He is the motherfucking 1%. You got to be a genius to a certain degree to work a campaign strategy and team to convince these type of people to do those type of things and to carry out their actions. Evil, in many ways, can be very smart, just like love can be very brilliant and genius. These forces are almost on equal ends, potent, but they're in opposite reactions. The biggest, most evil people in the world were evil geniuses, and the most powerful, brilliant, loving people in the world were also geniuses. Like MLK was a genius. He was strategic. Bear Rustin was strategic. Rosa Parks was a genius in how she executed her plans to protest. These people were geniuses, right? And how they was able to navigate the civil rights movement. All of them, community, black people, black women are geniuses, and how they're able to navigate against the racism of Georgia. But then you see that those white people, those Republicans, are also smart, where they come up with these really intricate ways to fuck over and suppress people. So no, there are smart racists. And I hate the narrative that people try to present of, oh, it's some dumb hillbilly or redneck out there that just don't get it. No, it's not those people. Those people are being fucked by the smart racists. See, the dumb racists are getting fucked by the smart racists. Because the smart racists don't actually like dumb racists. They actually want to get away from them. They actually use them like hyenas. I mean, did y'all see The Lion King? Because The Lion King is a perfect allegory of what the fuck I'm saying. Scar was smart as shit. He was a genius. The hyenas were the dumb racists, right, that got behind him, but had no fucking power. And eventually, in the end, when they found out they were being fucked, what did they do to Scar? They ate his ass. They'll eventually eat Trump. They'll figure it out, and they'll turn on him. And you see what's happening now with the Republican Party. They're turning on each other. But I don't know what the fuck Will Smith was saying. And people got to tell him sometimes, listen, bro, it's okay to sit back and learn. You don't have to always be an expert at something. There are many times where there are issues around women's issues, LGBTQ issues in communities. I listen and I report to the people. I sit, I take notes, I study. And then I go back and I tell people what I learned and I share it. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get information and share that with people. But you got to be in a position to learn. And I just feel like Will Smith is not, I don't know what he's learning. Because the stuff he's saying, I'm just like for him, he's talking about, he really found out about institutional racism because of his experience in Hollywood. Come on, Will. Come on. I just think the issue is that sometimes people get so caught up in their universe and their own world that they don't see how these things connect beyond their little, silos. And so that was just disappointing. But I digressed into all that when I wanted to say, back to Golden Globes and Audrey Day. Audrey Day got that little knock you song. But she's playing in this film, The United States versus Billie Holiday, which I've watched. Hated it. I didn't like the movie. I struggled with the movie, right? So, let me just say this. I think Andrew Day did the best with a horrible script and with a very ahistorical film. First of all, it's not a biopic. Director Lee Daniels, and we'll get to him in a minute. Lee Daniels directed the film. He's from Philly. He directed Precious, got an Oscar nomination, several Oscar nominations. He produced Precious too. He also did The Butler. He also produced Monsters Ball, which gave us our first ever black woman to receive an Oscar, which was Halle Berry in Monsters Ball. Which I went back and watched Monsters Ball, and I I think people should go back and watch some of these other movies. I think people should go back and watch Training Day in a Black Lives Matter era and understand how genius and villainous and incredibly badass Denzel's character was and what it meant. I think it was ahead of its time. I think it was ahead of its time. I mean, Denzel loves to play a cop, but he played a real fucked up cop, and it was the one. It was a film that won him the Oscar. And I used to be very much like, oh my god, why he could have went for the Hurricane? Hmm? Why he didn't win for Malcolm X, which he deserved? Why this film? But honestly, like, yeah, those other films were great too, and he should have gotten those. But Denzel did something very different in Training Day, and I just think it's a transformational role. And I think that what it represents and how bold it was is that it's so fucking good. First of all, it just shows you like the narrative around cops. Like, these guys are not good guys. It also shows you that being black and trying to work in a system to be good, how it can taint you. Even in that a system that oppresses people that look like you could become the monster in your own neighborhood. And that King Kong and Got Shit on Me like shows that, where his whole community like says fuck you. And then you know what happens to him in the end of the film. And it just shows you how full circle it is. And that was just, oh, Antoine Fuqua, chef's kiss, genius. Fucking genius. And I don't think people really gave the time to look at it. Watch it again. It's on HBO Max. Watch Training Day. I encourage all of you all to and go back and watch it. Denzel became the second black actor to win Best Actor for it after Sidney Poitier many years ago for Lilies in the Field, which is also a very good film. Not his best, in my opinion. I think he should have got it for. I mean, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was good, but In the Heat of the Night was really good too. Got a lot of good movies. Sidney Poitier was a great actor, very great actor. And the chops, man, the chops. So, that being said, the film United States versus Billie Holiday, I did like it, y'all. I there were moments where there's high moments, right? But it's just trauma porn. I mean, Billie Holiday couldn't catch a fucking break, and I don't want to tell the movie for you all, but like, it's just a bunch of trauma porn. I mean, it's abuse, it's drug addiction, it's more abuse, it's betrayal, it's heartbreak, it's death. I mean, it's just like the movie, the 2 hours and 20 something minutes or whatever. It's just a roller coaster from beginning to end. She cannot catch a break. And I was just sitting there looking like I was not prepared for a lot of it. I mean, there's lynchings in the film, y'all. It's just trigger fucking warning. I mean, they did the fucking most. But this is Lee Daniels for you. Lee Daniels likes to get very grotesque in his films. He's like the Quentin Tarantino of race films when it comes to depicting these issues. He loves a tragic mulatto type of film. He loves films around light-skinned women being in trauma, like going through shit. Like that's his trope. He's a more talented Tyler Perry. He's a Tyler Perry with Oscar nominations, with a little bit more talent. His movies are bullshit. A lot of his movies are crap, but they're done with a lot more higher quality direction. But he's still packaging the same problematic shit that Tyler Perry does, except that he actually is a skilled filmmaker. So, like, Lee Daniels has talent. The problem is that his talent is wrong. Tyler Perry does not have talent. Like, he does not know how to write a fucking cohesive TV show or film. His plots are terrible. His screenplays are terrible. His characters are whack. Like, he's not good at what he does. He's a good businessman, and he knows how to package this shit and sell it to the masses like malt liquor, but it's not artistry, in my opinion. It's buffoonery. Lee Daniels, he's on to something, but then he jacks it up because he leans into a lot of melodrama and then plays into some problematic tropes around his characters. And so it's so weird. I just don't like, I've grown really tired of Lee Daniels, like how he works his films. I see patterns and I'm just like, there's like, it's this very it tries too hard. It tries too hard. Like what the United States versus Billie Holiday thought it was doing versus what it actually did were two different things. I think that they thought they were doing, a live in Rose, about Edith Piaf. I think they thought they were going into that direction. I think they thought they were doing, one of these real gritty dramas about, a high profile figure, but like it wasn't a biopic. So there were like a lot of details they got wrong in the film, like about her being from Baltimore, which I heard wasn't necessarily exactly true. Details were off. The timeline was all over the place. It was just a lot of creative freedom and liberty they took with the film. And to a certain point, it felt real cheesy and a little campy. It gave me moments of camp. I got a little like, this is getting a little campy for me. And Lee Daniels do give camp. He doesn't realize it, but like he's made, Precious has become camp in certain black community spaces. Like I got friends that be like, they look at Monique and it's become a joke. Like Monique's performance has become a farce. Monique was, she was powerful in it. She got an Oscar, but it's some of that has become a farce now. Like the scene where Monique is like, real women make tough decisions. Come, Precious, Precious. When she goes into that little tirade, and of course, the scene where Precious kicks the pot down and she come down there and, camp, very campy. There's some moments in this film where it's a little bit of camp. I don't want to tell you the movie, but there's a particular white guy who's been very viral on Instagram that makes an appearance in this movie, not as himself, and it's very interesting. I will just say that. I was like, oh, is that who I think it is? It was. But I'm going to tell you what it is. Also, too, just sidebar, Lee Daniels, he likes to recast the same people in his shit. Like, he loves Miss Lawrence. He puts Miss Lawrence in a lot of his stuff, like Star. He loves Evan Ross. Like, Evan Ross has been in a couple of his projects. He's got like certain actors that he likes to put through consistently in his projects. And so that came across in this film. Evan Ross is really trying to be an actor. He's acted for many years now, but I'm just like, damn. And that's Diana Ross's son. But, I think there's a lot of parallels between him and Tyler Perry. Like, for example, Tyler Perry leans on his like actresses and his muses, right? Like Lee Daniels leans on, people like Queen Latifah, right? And Tyler Perry leans on certain like actresses like that. Like his big go-to is Janet Jackson. Tyler Perry's big go-to used to be Janet Jackson. Lee Daniels' big go-to is Mariah Carey. Like he's put Mariah Carey in a couple of his films. Like that's his big go-to for his projects. Like Lee has certain types of actors that he leans on. And sometimes they share. Like they both have shared Taraji. But Lee has like Tyler Perry has a couple of actors that he puts up and Lee do too. Like they kind of have these things that mirror each other and like who supports them and things like that. Like they both share Oprah. Like they both have a relationship with Oprah and it's interesting. I have a relationship with Oprah too, but I don't push bad movies. So I think, that's interesting. And also, Lee Daniels is an out gay man. Just gonna say that. Not to compare him to anyone else. Just Lee Daniels is out. Other parts of the Golden Globes to move on to. So there's other, there was other actors. Dan Kaluuya won for Judas and the Black Messiah. Love the film. Love him. Love that he won. And was very happy about that. He's going to get that Oscar. I hope he gets the Oscar. Do not fuck this up for him, Hollywood. Give Dan Kaluuya the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Judas and the Black Messiah. I was shocked that he won the Golden Globe. I was very happy for him. And he deserves, and I hope he wins the Oscar. I thought Leslie Odom was going to get it because there was a lot of buzz about One Night in Miami. But it seems like that buzz is kind of being like, okay, we're just going to give it nominations, but we don't know if we're going to give any wins. So I don't know if Leslie Odom's going to win for that performance. He was good in it, but like I said, Dan Kaluuya is coming out and coming strong, and I think he's going to get the Oscar. Audrey Day. Now, people ask me, Andra Day, do I think she's going to win? First of all, can I just say this? She kind of looks like Rihanna in certain pictures and moments. I don't know. She kind of favors Rihanna. Or Rihanna, I don't know who's older. But I'm just, well, Rihanna's more known. I think she's older than Rihanna, but she favors Rihanna in certain parts. Like when I was watching certain parts of that film, she looked like Rihanna in certain parts. Uh, and that's not shade because Rihanna's gorgeous. And Andrew's gorgeous too. Um, I don't know if she's going to get nominated for the Oscar because she didn't get a SAG nomination. The SAG is Screen Actors Guild Awards. And so Screen Actors Guild Awards is like all of the actors. Those are all awards for acting. And if the acting base didn't necessarily push her forward in the nominations, I don't know if they're going to do the same at the Oscars. So I'm not sure because they pushed Amy Adams for Hillbilly Elegy or whatever. And she was, I was surprised by that because she hadn't been getting any nomination. She didn't get a Golden Globe nomination. I don't think she got one for, I mean, maybe she did for Critics' Choice. Glenn Close has been getting a lot, and we're going to get to my heartbreak about Glenn in a minute. But there hasn't been any, like, major conversation around that performance. I thought she was good. Amy Adams is just a great actress. And there's a cool story that you can Google, put Ernest Owens, put Amy Adams, and there's a cool story about like how I went to LA in 2014 and she was on my flight and she gave up her seat to a soldier and I sat next to her and it was a super dope experience. And we talked about Meryl Streep in films and she was fabulous. And she bought me a margarita and she got herself a Bloody Mary and it was a great time. Yeah, great story. She's a great actress. But I was surprised about this. I don't know what's going to happen here. Andra Day became the second Black actress to ever win Best Actress in the Drama, following Whoopi Goldberg, who won in the late 90s, 80s, early 90s for The Color Purple. Well, Andra Day is the second Black actress to win that category, and she beat Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I thought. That category was tough because people thought Carey Mulligan was going to win for Promising Young Woman, which is a really, really good movie. Please watch it, y'all. Please go watch it. People were saying, Frances McDormand and Nomadland was going to get it. And I had heard speculation about that because that performance, I mean, she's good in that film. But Frances has already had 2 Oscars already, Best Actress Oscars. I mean, she is strong. But I think that with all the diversity, equity, inclusion conversations, I don't think they're going to push her forward. Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman is very powerful. It's perfect with the Me Too movement. It's timely. She's definitely overdue. She's done some really great films over the years. And, she was in Education. I thought that was great. She did, Suffragate or whatever. She's done a couple other movies that's been always Oscar chatter, but never really got her there. But this is different. I think Promising, one, she's going to get nominated for Best Actress. I don't know if she's going to win. But there's speculation. I mean, there's a lot of good roles. Interesting. Again, it could go either way. And then Viola Davis, let's not count Viola Davis out. There's been a lot of chatter about Viola Davis. And people really want Viola Davis to be the second Black woman in Oscar history to win. Remember, Halle Berry was the first. But with Andra Day in the race, I mean, could Andra Day be get it? I mean, is she now an Oscar frontrunner? I don't know. I mean, Golden Globes are just weird this year. And I try to tell people, do not bank too hard on Golden Globes. Because the Golden Globes have gave people wins, and those people never saw their asses at the Oscars. Case in point, Borat. Borat won a lot of awards. That sequel, which I did, get to see. It's cute. It's all right. I found it funny at times. It's very timely. The actress who's in the film with him, I don't know what's going to happen with her. I think she's going to get the Oscar nomination for maybe Best Supporting Actress. A lot of people thought she was going to win, and she didn't. The Oscars has just been very weird. Not the Oscars. The Golden Globes is the wins, which is weird. For example, Supporting Actress category, Jodie Foster won. I ain't heard from Jodie Foster in a minute. I thought it was cute that her and her partner were kissing, and she's finally really, really out now. And she's got that adorable dog. I haven't seen that film. I don't know where to find it. I can't even talk about the role. I don't know if Jodie Foster is going to be an Oscar contender. I don't know if she's going to. I just think it's one of those weird moments where again, the Golden Globes is really weird. I mean, again, when you have an Academy where there's no Black people, then of course there's going to be some odd decisions and sometimes some good decisions. Like Chadwick Boseman winning for Best Actor for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was a great performance. It's obvious he's going to win the Oscar for Best Actor. I mean, a lot of people thought Anthony Hopkins in The Father was going to be the front runner, but it's looking more and more like Chadwick Boseman. And it's sad that this man is receiving this in his death because I used to always crack on him, that he couldn't find like roles that I thought were like really award worthy, and now here he comes playing in the role of a lifetime. Well, really both of those roles. I mean, the Five Bloods. I mean, he was incredible in that too. And I'm just sad that that movie's not getting enough buzz because I thought the acting in that film was giving me everything, and I'm disappointed that what was a critically acclaimed performance by some high level black actors. I'm just upset that actors that were in that film like Delroy Lindo, who I thought killed it. Okay, his character was Paul, a soldier dealing with a former soldier that was in Vietnam that was dealing with PTSD. I thought he killed that performance. Was really upset to see that that didn't happen. I was. I hope that the Oscars pull a surprise and nominate him for Best Actor because he deserves. I thought he was a front runner. It's clear that Chadwick's going to most likely win, so that was interesting. Um, I mean, I'm thinking about. I mean, who are other surprises? I mean, I don't see Barat taking over anything. I think Nomadland is the front runner for Best Picture. The Best Actress race is messy. I don't know who's going to pull out. I'm upset that Glenn Close did not win the Golden Globe. Leave me alone. Best Supporting Actor Daniel Kaluuya sounds good. I mean, I don't know who else. I mean, the Golden Globes are just so weird this year. I mean, even Best Song was weird. I mean, everybody knows Soul is going to win. Everybody knows Soul is going to win uh, Best Animated Film. I think we all know that at this point. Um, but some of these films, I think that people are looking at. So let me talk about this slightly. I care a lot with Rosamund Pike, who was in Gone Girl. First of all, watch the movie. I encourage you to watch it. It's on Netflix if you haven't seen it. What a bizarre film, but an interesting film. And Rosamund Pike killed it. I hope she gets an Oscar nomination. I don't know. She might pull it off, but the performance was really good and very memorable. I'm happy she's won an award because a lot of times actresses like her do good work. They oftentimes get nominated, but they never really pull one out. But she did a great job, and I would like to see her get nominated for the Oscar. But I don't think she's going to win clearly. But I think the performance was really great. I'm happy that she pulled that surprise win. And a lot of people thought that the actress in Borat was going to win because I mean, anytime someone has to get in like a bed or a compromised position with someone like Rudolph Giuliani, that I think deserves some Oscar gold or some wins. Maybe she'll win in the Best Supporting Actress category again, sidelining my good old Judy Glenn Close, but we'll see. Again, this has been a really weird awards ceremony, and we're going to be watching it and monitoring it as we go. So, bracket finished for now. Let's get into this. So, a lot of people messaged me about this and asked me what I thought. I want to say before I get into this, I want to talk about this Senate race real quick. The PA Senate race. Everybody's talking about my episode, last week's episode, the episode I did about Malcolm Kenyatta and my situation with him. Well, there's updates to this Senate race. First of all, he's still running, and I think he's going to lose. That's just what I think. It's obvious. I'm hearing that Sharif Street, who is the state senator who I mentioned in my last episode, he might be, chicken footing and not running. Not because he doesn't think he's viable, but he's like still twiddling his thumbs on it. But there is people that have the sense that he's going to throw his hat in the race. But there is also people I've spoken to close to his area and his circle that are like he's kind of weighing it out because there's been a lot of people that are looking at the two candidates, really the two main candidates, which is Fetterman and Kenyatta, as like both weak. Like, will the primary? Like, I mean, both of these guys are weak in their own right. People's been asking me what I think about John Fetterman. And they were like, well, you talked about Kenyatta. What do you guys say Fetterman? I don't really like see Fetterman like that. I don't really care. I mean, like I told you, if it was between Malcolm and Fetterman, I'm voting for Fetterman. I just want to be very clear about that. Like, I don't have like, I mean, I think if I got to choose the lesser evil, I would choose Fetterman, because I just don't think Kenyatta's ready, and that's just my opinion. But one of the things that was interesting that came out in the conversation, I think it's something I really want to share with you all, to discuss this in depth, was that there was a lot of like talk about an incident that involved Fetterman, um, you know, and it was a lot. So there's people that ask me, what do I think about this black jogger situation? Back in 2013, when Fetterman was a mayor, he used a gun to stop a guy named Christopher Mayeres, was a black man jogging nearby. Um, After Fetterman said he heard gunshots. Now the police found no weapons on Mr. Mayeres, and released him. So that happened in 2013, and a lot of people really was just like saying that Fetterman was racist and he targeted this man. But there was a lot of other suggestive information that people did not consider. That Fetterman said, "Hey, listen, this happened not too long ago by Sandy Hook. He heard gun shooting. It was complicated." There was no charges related to the incident that were brought against Fetterman, who, basically, traced this guy down. Was it aggressive? Was it not? It's a lot of things like that. However, here's the issue here. A lot of people have been coming. So let me tell you all something. This is going to get you all shook. I was interested, when I heard about this jogger situation. I was interested because it happened in my state. It happened in my Commonwealth, Pennsylvania. I was interested in finding out who this young man was. I wanted to find him. I wanted to interview him. I wanted to, figure out, hey, 8 years later since this incident, how do you feel about Fetterman running, right? That's what I want to do. Well, when I actually tried to find him, like looked him up, listen, he's incarcerated right now. In 2018, I found out that he was charged with multiple felonies. I mean, and this is not, let me be clear, this is a separate incident. This has nothing to do with the Fetterman incident clear in 2013. But the felonies he had involved kidnapping someone for ransom, terroristic threats, reckless endangerment, and he's right now incarcerated in a state prison in Somerset County in PA. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that Fetterman's actions in 2013 was warranted or necessary. But what I want to be clear about is that I've heard a lot of Democrats behind Fetterman's back, because Fetterman's a Democrat right now, that have been privately telling people, well, he shook down an innocent man, and how did he know that man was dangerous? And that brother is now scarred and trying to live his life, and now that young man could be in college. No, that young man is in prison. And I'm not saying that makes Fetterman a better person, but when you're putting into context, trying to frame this guy like a martyr, it doesn't necessarily add up in the same type of way. And so I'm not saying I'm doing this, but I'm saying that there are people who I've spoken with, because I did my research, because before I wanted to go out and say anything, I wanted to find out who this man is. And let's be clear, internally, right? We know that one thing don't equal another thing in that situation. However, for Fetterman's campaign, his group can say, well, I thought this young man, based on what I assumed, could be up to no good. And then we find out years later, hey, this man is a dangerous man who did some really fucked up shit. And who's to say, literally 5 years after the incident, this man does this. You would think after being targeted that kind of way, this man would probably avoid the crime. But it looks like that's what he was doing all along, potentially. So it's almost like, are we mad now? I mean, this guy technically was what I guess was presumed of him. Is that, that's the problem. I mean, that's the struggle. In other words, Democrats trying to go after Fetterman over the jogger issue. If you ain't heard from anybody today, that not be the hill you want to die on. It's just not the one. If you think Fetterman is mean, if you think Fetterman is whatever, go that way. But I think if people found out what happened to that man or who became, you don't really care as much, because the speculation that could have surrounded why Fetterman stopped him could be potentially appear to be more valid. So, for example, let's say a girl saw a guy who they saw out, and they saw the guy with their child a certain kind of way. They said, you know what, I'm going to get my kid away from him. He's a creep. And it was like, why are you acting like that? And then that guy turns around years later and get arrested for sexual assault of a minor or indecent exposure. It's kind of like, okay, maybe I overreacted in that moment, but like, was I overreacting? Did I not have an inclination? Was there not something about the situation that sucks? I mean, that's all I'm saying. There's now been some reasonable doubt around this guy based on what he ends up doing down the road. So I'm just saying, it's just whatever. But that being said, I don't necessarily know, I mean, there's talk that Madeline Dean, who's been making a big name for herself lately around the Trump impeachment trials and everything like that, people are saying Madeline Dean might be the ideal candidate. I mean, a woman senator from Pennsylvania. I mean, we saw that with Katie McGinty, and it was a little close for her. But I feel like could Philadelphia and New York in the primaries unite around her? I think so. A woman's got to get in this race. And if she's the one that's going to get in the race, I think that can be the scapegoat for white folks who are not sure on Fetterman and progressives who like Malcolm potentially but don't want him in the Senate seat. They can run for the white woman because progressives love a white woman. Okay, white progressives love a white woman. Look at Hillary. Look at Rebecca Reinhardt. Look at some of these other people that have gotten seats. They'll get behind sometimes. They won't get around to Aaron Sonamore, whatever she had with Dom. She's working with Alan Dom now, the councilman. There's certain white women they're just not going to see it for. But that's also based on what their energy is. Rebecca Reinhardt was like a magical unicorn in Philadelphia because like this city does not like elect white women in positions, and for various reasons because they don't trust them. Maybe I think they don't elect blondes anymore. I don't know, but I think there's just something about approach. And Rebecca Reinhardt was able to break through that because Rebecca's team was diverse. Rebecca was challenged on her diversity issues prior to that position, and she was very, I think, forthcoming and self-accountable about it. And other people saw that. She bucked against a man that was very old and tired and the establishment, and she just picked the right race, the right energy, the right time. And she was very strategic about it. And I think in previous races with white women, when they run for these, because I mean, when I think about it, it's not that many white women who win in Philadelphia. The white women who do, they're very strategic about where they're at. And a lot of times they have to come from some type of political backing, like remember the Donna Tucci's. But now she's not there anymore. So it's just interesting. Philadelphia is a very interesting city politically. They will elect white men profusely. But white women, something about that, they just can't get behind it. So anyway, I've been hearing a lot about Madeline Dean, and I think that's going to make that race interesting. So before I get into my final major chit-chattery part, I want to talk about these things called receipts and raffle tickets. Receipts are things that are based on facts. It's information that you use to, nail someone down. And there's some information there that is very, very good and bulletproof. And raffle tickets are, attempts to get a win, to get a point. And you're trying it, and it's information that is like, what is this? Loose, inconsistent, very flashy, admit one. It's an attempt, but there's no fiber there. It's disposable. It's a bunch, but it's a bunch of nothing, and doesn't equal anything of value. So receipts versus raffle tickets. I've had some interesting experiences lately where there's been folks who, I don't even know, strangers, trolls, whatever, that have tried to come up with what they think are ways to critique myself and others with what I call raffle tickets. It's I'm gonna make this stretch here. I'm gonna make this assertion point here that I think is gonna, be the aha moment, and then it actually aha and falls in your face. And people have been hijacking the term. Well, I don't say hijacking, but swagger jacking the term receipts and just been overusing it. And like, I remember first hearing receipts from the legendary and the late Whitney Houston when she did the interview with Diane Sawyer, and she asked Diane Sawyer about receipts regarding crack cocaine that was allegedly she was using at the time. It was allegedly, we know she did use it. But again, Diana did not have those receipts. She said she wanted to see the receipts, show me the receipts. Well, we all know that there's no receipts. But that was the whole point, right? And so, black gay men specifically in the queer community began to use that term and it became popular in our community, in our culture. And then, of course, like what happens a lot of times with black queer culture in general and trans culture, cishet people see it, hear it, like it, and they take it. Like, yes! You didn't fucking invent that. Like, that came from black queer vernacular and that order. You're serving. You better read. There's this, I'm not going to name her name, but some of y'all might catch it. But there is this one woman who, she's in Philadelphia, and, she really, some people are like very performative. She is very performative in a way that she really, I think, in many ways, project a lot of mockery. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it's very over the top. That is, it comes of black culture, gay culture. It's a lot of I'm serving a look for the girls, and I'm mother, and I'm this, and I'm just like, all of this is from the culture, and you're not from that community, and I get it. You think it's funny because, you and the women around you like to joke and kiki and haha. But like, it's so annoying. And I think that, I remember one time I went to an event with this person, and I'll never forget this event. And they saw me, and they came to me and they were doing the most. And as a gay person, as a black gay man specifically, one of the things that I don't like, and this that shit I don't like, is when I encounter straight women specifically, because straight men don't really do this, they just kind of like weird. But straight women who don't really know you, but then come up to you and just put on a whole energy, a whole accent change and performance. And I'm just like, why? Like, stop it. Like, I'm a human, be fucking normal. Like, they'll do stuff like, yes, hey, and like, I don't even know them, but they'll do this, hey, yes, Ernest, you better serve, I'm like, you don't know me. Don't do that. Like, no, that's so fucking weird. That's like being the white guy who goes to the company, event, and they see a black woman or a black guy, and they're like, what's up, Jamal? How you doing, partner? Hey, ho. Like, and you're like, what are you doing, white guy? Like, stop that. Cut that out. Enough. Just say hi. Be normal. Fuck out of here. Like, it's about vernacular. It's all about understanding and cultural competency. And so this woman did this to me one time at an event, and I was just so turned off from her ever since then. Like, I mean, I see her, I'll say hello, I'm respectful, I keep it cute, but like, that like turned me off. And maybe, somebody will hear this and run and tell this person, and maybe you should, shit, and tell them, don't do that. Like, that's not, like, it's not like this person's canceled, I'm over them forever. It's just one of them things I'm just like, just don't gotta do all that. You don't, especially when you don't know me. We don't know. And I have straight friends that I'm cool with, like close with, and we talk and we cheeky. But when you're not in that tribe, just, hey, Ernest, how you doing? What's up, man? That's it. Keep it simple. Humanize me, especially in professional spaces. Because I think that's what happens too. I think that people think with young people, they can talk to young people any kind of way or approach, black women, black men, black queer people a certain way in spaces that are professional. Like they try to, and that's a form of disrespect because they look at you and they think, oh, I can dismiss this person's shield. So when I go into these professional spaces as a Black queer man, I'm my authentic self all day, every day. Let's be clear. But I'm also somebody who, not trying to make things about me. I'm also somebody who's not trying to get the spotlight on me. I don't need, I don't need to be singled out in ways that are performative, you know? And I don't need people to feel like that's the way they can connect to me is by trying to emulate or imitate what they think I am or who I am, Because 9 times out of 10, you're not doing it right. And you're going to be offensive. And you don't have to do that. And so there's people that just do those type of things. Like, please, not me. I'm not that gay. I'm not that gay. I'm not that guy. There's some people that like people to do that with them and put on a show and do all that stuff. But you got to know that person. You got to have that invitation. I'm not that person. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to respect people's space. We talked about that earlier. Just be mindful. Be better. Okay. So, raffle tickets and receipts. Let's talk about these receipts. So, here's my final thought. And this is something that has been talked about a lot this week, and I don't know why. I kind of heard of how it came about. So there was a woman who's in the NFL. She put up somebody's internship. It was unpaid. Apparently it wasn't her soliciting it, but she put it up. People was like, wait a minute, unpaid internships, yada, yada, yada. So she started talking about how she did unpaid internships, and they were like, hold up, ma, you come for money. And it became this whole debate about unpaid internships and should internships be paid, and people who got unpaid internships trying to talk about. Listen, I'm just gonna say this, and I need to say this on behalf of the people in 2021 in this modern era in 21st century. If you are not paying interns, and we'll talk about what pay means in a minute, but if you're not paying interns, you don't deserve to have interns. That's all I'm gonna say when it comes to the simple level. There are people out here, okay, let's be very clear. An intern is doing work. Work is labor. Labor should be paid. No one does anything for free. Nothing for free. And you can't pay them with invisible things. You need to compensate people for the work that they do. There's a lot of people who have benefited off of what I consider slave labor of interns. Businesses and companies that literally their business is thriving because of unpaid labor, because they're not paying students and young people for work. You cannot expect anyone to do any work, especially in the journalism business, because I'm going to get to that. You can't. So there's a lot of people in the journalism business that are getting people to do work for them, like real work. Not like, oh, you're walking around. Like you got people out here doing, filing papers and stacking shit up. You got people doing administrative work. You got people doing editorial work, producing articles, writing stories. Listen, that's work. And no one should be doing that for free. That's not how you get experience. You could get experience without doing it for free. You know how you know? Because on the resume, when it says work experience, that work experience that you did, a lot of that was your previous job work that you got paid for. Why are we, acting like experience has to be correlated to not being paid? Why do we have this psychology that hard work and demonstration means doing it for free? Why does slavery have to be equated to some sense of loyalty? Get out of that fucking American capitalistic mindset. No, work is work, and work deserves pay. Now let's get into what pay can be. Because everyone's like, well, what if you don't have money? Well, fuck, get some money. But it can mean paying people in cash, like paying people with revenue, right? Cash flow, money, checks, stuff like that. It can be credit, college credit. Like you can say, listen, we reward in college credit. When I did internship programs in college, I either got paid with money or college credit. So sometimes I was able to, in lieu of taking that class, my program that I was in at Penn provided me the credit. So the work I did equaled a college credit, which is in turn exchanged and rewarded in money. Sometimes more money than what you would have got paid for by the internship. But there was a exchange. And so a lot of internship programs will do an exchange. They will say, listen, we will take you, and this will be college credit. So you have to do a program where they would accept it as a credit so it could be an exchange if they couldn't pay you with money. But there has to be some level of an exchange. And as a journalist and as somebody who does any type of work, you have to exchange in that type of way. Sometimes people say, we pay in stipends. We'll provide lunch. We'll provide transportation. We'll give you a referral. You'll get a certification from the program. So like you do this work and you're going to walk away with a certificate. Or so. You got to give people something of a value. And the value cannot be exposure. The value can't just be whatever. And there's a lot of people out here telling these stories about, and I'm not saying stories as in lies, but these narratives about, well, I did this intern. I worked my way up and got a company. Well, you know what? Just because you went through hell, don't mean everyone else has to. I think that's how people treat fraternities and sororities. Well, they beat me in the ass and paddled me and hit me in the head and beat me up. So you got to go through that process too. You should not keep putting people through the fire. Where is the responsibility as a generation that we look back at ourselves and say, what we experience shouldn't be what someone else experienced? So Gen Zers, I don't want them to go through the experience of being exploited through internship programs in that kind of way. Every internship experience I had, some were great, some weren't, but I never walked away feeling like I got fucked over because I was able to say, hey, I got some work from this. I got college credit for this. I got money from this. Like there was something that I was able to take with me in addition to the experience I got on the job. But that experience should require me to get paid because we work just as hard. And I think that's the problem. People just are out here telling people to, crawl and all this. Listen, we got to let go of this mentality around work. And so when I hear these stories, it's really upsetting because I will tell you that there's a lot of revelation that came from some of it. There's a lot of classism and racism. The reason why I think the journalism industry struggles with diversity and inclusion is because a lot of these internships that the industry put out are unpaid. And a lot of black and brown people cannot afford to take an unpaid internship. So trying to convince somebody, to do an internship for a summer, right? A summer internship where they're out of school. So 9 times out of 10, they need to provide their housing, food, whatever. And you're asking them to do something unpaid. Now, granted, we know that the industry takes a lot of interns that will eventually work for them. But people can't afford to make that. There's people that can barely do it with college loans and debt. So the thing about me, I have to make some interesting sacrifices to get in this industry. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. I knew I wanted to be a journalist, by the end of my sophomore year. And I knew that I need to get some real experience, internships, because if I didn't get the internships, the ability to get the job from the internships, it wasn't going to happen. I did pay internships in the summer because I was off campus. And I had to do what I had to do. And so those internships were not journalism internships because quite frankly, I could not afford to do that, right? So what I had to do to compromise, and this is very telling. I did fall and summer internships for media companies because they weren't paying me money. But they were paying in college credit. So I would do a semester program. I would do my semester and I would schedule it where I would take an internship class, get the internship for the fall and the spring, and I would get my credits those ways. I couldn't do that shit in the summer because I couldn't afford it. But the crazy part about it is that I literally had to work literally twice as hard, 3 times as hard in order to get opportunities. Because if I did not get those journalism internships any other way on my resume, my ability to advance professionally in my career would have taken a hit. So I had to have a summer internship to make money in the summer. That was completely different. So I interned in DC for a government agency, a lobbyist group. I interned the next summer for Penn, but as a communications intern, but that was a paid gig, and I did writing for them and things of that nature, but it wasn't journalism. I had to do a bunch of internships that were paying in the summer. And then in the fall and the spring, I was taking these, like, I was at NBC 10, I was at Philadelphia Magazine, I did another writing publication group. I did a bunch of stuff like that because they wasn't paying me money then. And so I wasn't getting like actual money that I could live off of and things. So I had to use it for college credit. And that was what I had to do. And so, y'all, that shit was hard. Like, I mean, like NBC 10, like, I mean, I got some experience. I got some shit published, but like, I had to do, because my classes were in the day, I had to go down to Bala Kenwood. I was taking a bus to Bala Kenwood, y'all, because this is before Uber. And I had to go all the way down the main line and like late at night, wait at the bus station and hope that shit didn't go down. Nothing did, but that shit was wild. And I was coming home late, and would have to get up and do it again. I mean, but like, that was the only way I was able to find some level of equity and not getting fucked over with my internships. But like, no one should have to do that. And so as a Black journalist doing the work that I do, when I hear a lot of my white colleagues in different newsrooms talk about how they had this awesome internship experience in college, working for these places, and how it was unpaid. Well, yeah, you got mommy and daddy wiring you money. I didn't have that. I didn't have that. And I wasn't going to burden my mom to pay for me and take care of me through an entire summer while I was in college. Like, that just wasn't going to happen either. And I also kind of liked my financial independence in that kind of way, but it was just like, I had to make those decisions. And honestly, they were good for me. I mean, for those who are in college, people listen to this podcast, I mean, I don't think people should just do nothing but journalism internships if you're a journalist. I don't think anyone should do one of any type of field that they do. I think that you should mix it up and find ways to get different balance. Like I did stuff with PR groups. I did all kind of cool little niche things, apprenticeships and stuff. But get paid, people. Get paid. And folks out here in these jobs, in these corporate rooms, if you have organizations that are not paying people or giving people college credit to do it at your job or your company, you need to shut that program down. Because it's not equitable. Selling people on exposure and experience is just the cheapest shot in the game. Don't do it to people. Respect people. Respect people's ability to thrive in this business. And just, yeah, respect people. Just pay the people. Pay the people. Pay the people. So, a lot of great things are coming up. By this time next week, we'll be having some conversations about diversity, inclusion, equity, inclusion. Can't say it on this episode because this morning, you'll be listening to this maybe in the afternoon or morning, that news won't drop. So if it's a Thursday, it's going to be dropping on Thursday. And you'll know if you listen to it over the weekend, this show, what the news is, because I'll share it all on my social, but it's some big motherfucking news. And it's good news for something I really care about. And some of you all will know. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in next week's episode. And there might be a sequel because there's another thing coming following that. But super excited about this news. And just want to tell you all, keep the faith. Keep pushing. Keep rocking. And we'll see each other on the side. Until then, enjoy. Take care. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.